year 1906, no leader was more inspiring, articulate, or more effective than Fred Hampton. He was a natural leader, becoming an active member in the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, assuming leadership of the Youth Council of the organization's West Suburban branch. Hampton believed it was his mission to create and improve the environment for the development of young African Americans. Before we begin to tell you more, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up to date when we release new videos. Fred Allen Hampton was born on August 30th, 1948 in Chicago and was the youngest of 3 children born to Francis and Iberia, who had relocated north from Louisiana and both held jobs at the Argo Starch Company. He grew up in Maywood, Illinois and attended Irvine Elementary School and Proviso's East High School, where he excelled in athletics as well as academics. Fred showed early signs of being one to speak up for the oppressed, and in high school he led the school's Interracial Committee and protested the school for only nominating the white female students to run for homecoming queen. This resulted in the inclusion of black girls going forward. He graduated with honors from Proviso's High School in 1966 and later enrolled at the Trenton Junior College to study law. Hampton had a keen interest in civil rights movements, which led him to join the NAACP, and with his previous experience he had gained NAACP youth organizer, Hampton began to show signs of his natural leadership ability and quickly gained a leadership position at the head summit of the Youth Council for the organization's West Suburban branch. From a committee of 27,000, he was able to gather a youth group of 500 members strong, an impressive size even for a district twice as large. He gathered hundreds of Proviso's East students and successfully lobbied city officials to create better recreational facilities and improve educational resources in the African American neighborhoods. In October 1966, Bobby Steele and Huey Newton would form the Black Panther Party in Oakland, California. As a student, Steele had heard Malcolm X speak at a public meeting and became influenced to join the African American Association and became active in civil rights movements. This is where he met Huey Newton, who was also involved in politics as a student. The Black Panther Party was initially formed to protect local communities from the police brutality and racism. They eventually developed into a communist revolutionary group. Hampton joined the party in Oakland, California, and founded the Chicago chapter using the Panthers framework in November 1968, which was their 10-point Panther program. The 10-point plan was divided into 2 parts: What We Want Now, which covered what the Black Panther Party wanted from the leaders of America, such as better employment and the end of police brutality, and the second section, What We Believe, covered the rights African Americans should have, such as better treatment from landlords, not to be forced to fight in the military service to defend the government who does not protect them. I'll leave a link in the description which goes over these in more detail. Hampton established a community service project that served hundreds of residents daily. This included free breakfast for school children and a medical clinic that offered free treatment for patients. Hampton himself taught political education classes. The Panther Party offered a number of additional free services, including busing to prison daycare centers, clothing banks, and ambulance services. They also lobbied against landlords to ensure that accommodations were properly furnished and boilers were repaired and working properly during winter times. Even at the young age of 20, Hampton was extremely influential. One of Hampton's greatest achievements was to persuade Chicago's most powerful street gangs to stop fighting against each other by emphasizing that racial and ethnic conflicts between gangs would only keep its members entranced in poverty. He was able to forge a mutual alliance of black, Puerto Rican, and poor white youths. This took place in May of 1969, where Hampton held a press conference and announced a non-aggressive pact between the gangs, what would be called a Rainbow Coalition. Despite all the great strides and achievements Hampton and the Black Panther were putting out into the community, to civil rights leaders in Chicago, the FBI, and many others, Hampton was seen as a dangerous revolutionary leader, committed to the violent overthrowing of the white-dominated system. J. Edgar Hoover was growing uncomfortable with the activities of the Black Panthers in Chicago. If the name J. Edgar Hoover sounds familiar, that's because he had also placed Angela Davis on the FBI's most wanted list in our last video. Hoover described the Panthers as the greatest threat to the internal security of the country and urged the Chicago Chicago police to launch an all-out assault on the organization, which would lead to local enforcement pursuing Hampton. While he was appearing on television in January 1969, Chicago police arrested him on an old traffic warrant. Later that year, Hampton went on trial for stealing ice cream bars, a charge he denied. However, Hampton was convicted and sentenced to 2 to 5 years in prison. The police were very desperate and were trying everything to bring Hampton down. Hampton was released. Then on 4th of December 1969, a dozen police officers executed a search warrant, allegedly for illegal weapons, and raided the apartment where Hampton and several Panther members were residing. Shots were fired in the raid, and sadly, Hampton was killed. The layout of Hampton's apartment had been provided to the police prior to the raid by William O'Neill, an FBI informant who had joined the Panthers. No illegal weapons were found in the raid. The police account also claimed that they had been responding to gunfire. This story was debunked when what was described by law enforcement as holes created by Panther bullets was shown to actually be nail heads. Charges against the Panthers who had survived the raid were dismissed the following year in 1970. Although his life was short, his legacy lives on, as Fred Hampton was one of the greatest revolutionaries of the 20th century. His girlfriend Deborah Johnson was also a survivor in the shooting, and she was pregnant with his son at the time. Fred Hampton Jr., along with his mother, now carry on in his father's footsteps. This brings an end to today's video. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments and share the video to others. Until next time.